Okay, let's do this. It's Monday, December 30th, 2019. Today's question, how do you deal with severe anxiety, especially in the middle of the night? Hey guys, welcome to the classroom of life that is Stand Up. I'm Pete Dominic. Every show, doing my best to fight apathy and ignorance, learn together from our expert guests, interesting people about the issues and ideas that matter to you, your family, your community, your country, your planet, including your own personal well-being. Dealing with loss, health issues, depression, anxiety, and more. Sorry for my crappy voice. I caught a cold yesterday. I thought it was the flu because I'm catastrophizing everything right now, but it's just a head cold. But I taped my interview with today's guest last week, so you won't have to suffer through this for more than another minute. 2019 almost over, and that means we are at the end of what I call Taint Week, the week between Christmas and New Year's, where depending on your life, it seems very little gets done. Maybe you took some time off. You went on a vacation, maybe. Caught up with some work, cleaned your garage. I don't know. Maybe you did nothing. Read a good book, watched a movie. I watched the first movie I've watched in months called The Report, about the Senate torture report. It's on Amazon Prime. It's very good. I highly recommend it. Anyway, happy Taint Week. I wasn't expecting my conversation with my guest, Wajahat Ali, to become focused on me and my anxiety over losing my job at 44, dealing with this severe anxiety and depression for the first time in my life. I guess I've been lucky. I thought we'd talk about politics and white supremacy and the rise of hate crime in America, but I guess that's going to have to wait for our next conversation. So here it is, everybody. Don't forget, support on Patreon, patreon.com/Pete Dominic. Give us a 5-star rating. Review the podcast. It all helps. Now my guest, the very surprising conversation that took an amazing left turn with Wajahat Ali right now. Really happy that I have Wajahat Ali on the phone right now because he really is one of my favorite people to talk to follow on Twitter, and to read. He and I have become pretty good friends. He is a lawyer. Recovering lawyer? I don't know. We'll talk about that. He is a CNN contributor. You can see him on CNN now a lot. He gave an amazing TED Talk, and he's just an inspiring guy who I admire a lot. He's brilliant. He's hilarious, and I always love talking to him. Waj, welcome to the Stand Up with Pete Dominic podcast.
Pete Dominic, I am honored to join you on your podcast. You are always kind to me, and your listeners should know that Pete is a stand-up guy, a person who always helps people. Helped me out, gave me advice, brought me on your show, helped me build that amazing Twitter audience. So you're a good dude, man. I'm very excited when I found out that you're starting your own podcast. So this is good stuff. America needs you. America needs more Dominic. America needs Dominic.
Very, very generous. Do you know how we met or how we became friendly? Because I was thinking about it, and I don't know if it was cable TV appearances or if I invited you on my show for the first. I think I just read your New York Times piece that you wrote. I invited you on the show, and then realized kind of what kind of guy you were, that you weren't only brilliant, but that you're real funny. And then maybe Aspen, I don't know.
Yeah, that's what happened. So you invited me one time, and then you realized very quickly that I'm immature like you, so that we got along.
Right.
And then we were at Aspen, where obviously we blend with the top 1% who bring their private planes and eat French cheeses that we can't pronounce. And then I remember you, me, and Trayvon had a really good conversation. And then remember we did stand up in front of Barbara Streisand?
That's right. We did a stand up comedy show, and there were a bunch of
the weirdest stand up comedy show ever.
Yeah, because there were more than a few billionaires in the audience, and that just doesn't happen. I've been doing stand up for over 20 years. I don't know if who knows if there have been, but there were more than a few, including Streisand. But
Eisner was there.
Was he?
Disney. Yeah, remember that? It was weird, man. And I remember I was the third one. Jeffrey Goldberg had me as third one. Remember the audience was just did not laugh at all, even though it was an amateur comedy hour.
Right.
But you were aggressive. You literally took the mic and said, F you, laugh. And then you just mocked their wealth. And then a few of them finally cracked. And then I think remember, and then Colin Jost and Che came on, and then they were drunk enough by that time. And then everyone left.
That's right. Plus, they were recognizable celebrities, and that's what these wealthy folks love. But yeah, you can only make fun of the affluent for 2 jokes. On the third joke, they react with, "Hey, I earned this."
No, and hey, don't make us unleash Bloomberg. And now it's too late.
Too late. Well, yeah, I also remember that year you and Jonathan Greenblatt did this part of the Aspen Ideas Fest panel for their youth initiative, where you as a Muslim and he as a Jewish guy and head of the Anti-Defamation League came together to talk about hate is hate, no matter who it is. And I'll never forget that, because I thought that was so moving and so powerful. And I think that's been a big part of your life's work, is building bridges with other people, especially other minorities and groups that have been historically discriminated against. Is how much of your career, how much do you think about that?
No, that's interesting, because I mean, so you live your life, right? Like you're just growing up in America, right? And you're thinking, okay, I want the prettiest girl to talk to me, she never does, and I want Travis and Chet to invite me to their house to eat something called meatloaf. Which remains a mystery to me, growing up as like a son of Pakistani immigrants, right? But like that's how most of us grow up. But then you realize, like, being the son of Pakistani Muslim immigrants, like me growing up in the Bay Area, like you're the token, you're like the only Muslim, you're the only brown guy. And so throughout my entire life, I was both us and them. Does that make sense? Right? Like I'm us, I'm an American, but I'm also them, the outsider. And so you're always kind of like asked to represent 1.7 billion people and being like a walking Wikipedia on this thing called Islam and brown folks. And so that was like the role I kind of unconsciously took on for myself. But the reason why I mentioned that is, if you just look at my life, that's kind of what I do. I like straddle these worlds, right? And I'm able to like just navigate these worlds and talk about these different cultures in America. And like the rest of us who want to be protagonists, but we're always treated as sidekicks. That's and then it's 21st century, and I think most of us are like, yeah, we want a starring role now. We want to be co-protagonists of the American narrative, and that's kind of how things have evolved, I think. When did
you realize or recognize that you were brown and Muslim in America? Like, were there many moments? Was there a seminal moment when you're like, oh, I'm not. I'm different. I'm not the norm. I'm not what people are used to. Was it every day?
It's when you first go to school and you realize that other kids don't have lentil stains on their shirt, and they speak a language called English that your parents, even though you were born and raised in this country, deemed it not like necessary for you to learn. So I was 5 years old when I got dropped off at Child's Hideaway Preschool. I only knew 3 words of English. Shut up, idiot, because my mom used to say, shut up, idiot. And then, we grew up in the 80s. Remember the Oh Spaghetti commercial?
Yes.
Yeah, I used to say, oh, Pasgerio, because I was a fob kid. That's it. And then they put me in ESL, English as a second language, which I just find hilarious, because then I graduated with an English major from UC Berkeley. But like, if you ask most kids, like even if you talk like Asian American kids, Black kids, like Latino kids, they're like, when did you realize you're not the protagonist? When did you realize you're the other? And most of my friends and colleagues say school. School is like when you leave the cocoon of your family, your home, and like you go to like the American school, especially in the 80s and 90s, you're like, not all the other kids are brown or speak Urdu. Interesting.
Were they mean?
I was fat. So this was like before the Dove like soap commercials were like, remember like the body, there was no body positive anything, Pete Dominic,
right,
in the 80s and 90s. Right. When you were fat, every day was World War III. So the kids were mean to me because I was fat. But I remember they used to, like, it's funny, like the diss for me was Gandhi, which is not a diss at all. So I was like, oh, thank you for comparing me to a world leader who's a pacifist and
it's interesting. Oppression. I wonder if that's, that was the reference for them then, was Gandhi, who was an inspiring leader. And then, things changed as a lot of terrorism and the coverage of terrorism. And I'm guessing now that your kids and kids probably since 9/11. I mean, how do you think that's changed, that you went from being Gandhi to, bin Laden?
No, that's exactly it. You made the connection. It was Gandhi to Osama, and 9/11 did it. And so 9/11, I was like 20 years old, a senior at UC Berkeley, and where I was like, one of the leaders of the Muslim Student Association. And then that was like baptism by fire for my generation. There's always like a pre 9/11 and a post 9/11. Because after that, and this is like a story of both America and the world, right? The endless war on terror began, or rather was continued. And then Islam became this thing, this enemy. And so it was, remember, like you and I remember like the horrors of the George W. Bush administration, right?
Yeah, of course.
You're either with us or you're against us. Like,
gotta go fight the evildoers.
Evildoers. Islam is a religion of peace, but we're going to do the Patriot Act and weapons of mass destruction. And people forget, man, like 9/11 was crazy. Like, we lost our mind as a country. Like, there's that Chappelle joke, which is really good. He goes, like Dixie chicks were like the whitest women on earth, became the enemies because remember Natalie Mann just said something. She goes, I'm embarrassed that George W. Bush is from Texas, y'all. That's all she said. And America lost its shit and like took steamrollers over CDs.
Yeah, it really, at least temporarily, destroyed their career.
Yeah, for years, man. And so, and that was a shift, and that was and you know what? Also, you realize, especially being a child of immigrants or certain immigrant communities, you're not white, and white people will never accept you. That's what you realize. Also, no matter how much you aspired for whiteness, you'll still never be white. Do you think
that white people have accepted you yet?
That's a good question. I think.
Let me say something. I'm surprised, somewhat surprised. I've been somewhat surprised. I'll say it for a fifth time, that you have been invited on MSNBC and now CNN, where you're a contributor, because of a lot of the things that you have said about white supremacy. Like, I recall a few times seeing you, and even maybe think one time being on with you, being shocked by what you were saying about white people and white supremacy, and thinking, because I'd been in that game for a long time, well, they're not going to keep inviting him back. I mean, I agreed fully with you. I said those types of things, but it was different. Maybe when I said them, I didn't say them potentially, maybe as articulately as you did. But I feel like I'm really pleasantly surprised that you have gained respect, that you got the deal at CNN because of your honesty. So my answer would be that the white power structures of cable media, at least, much less the Twitter sphere or New York Times, have welcomed you, have elevated you.
So it's to answer your question, I still think it's conditional. Being a person of color, because I have so many stories, like so many other people of color. Yeah. Are you the good Muslim? Oh, he's the good Muslim. Oh, you pray. Oh, you're not a good Muslim. But how do you not drink and not pray and still be intellectual? Oh, interesting. And like the weird passive aggressive jibes, the litmus tests. There's some of just basically like ignorant questions. Like I've told you this before. So many otherwise worldly, smart people, many colleagues, they're shocked. They literally said this to my face. We didn't know Muslims could be funny. And you sit there and go like. Yeah. What? And so it's conditional. But to go to your point, you know what did it for CNN, which was so interesting? Because you and I have talked about this, right? Like the whole, like a lot of people don't realize this. If you're listening to this, you see me and Pete and so many other people on MSNBC and CNN, who come on a lot. A lot of us do not get paid, guys. And so people think, oh, they've made it. They're on TV. A lot of us are doing it for free. Very few people get the contributor gig. This. And then you play the game, right? Well, you're told to play the game. Yeah. All right, man, just do it. And then they like you. And then if they like you, sometimes they might give it to you. You know how it goes. You've been doing this.
I had it, made a fortune at CNN, I was getting paid well and lost it. I'm in a unique category to have the paid contributor gig, lose it, and then go back for free. It's like a step back, but go ahead.
No, but it's like, but the thing is,
Yeah.
No, nobody can knock you because that could be me, right? Like that's just the weird game it's played. But to tie into like, so I'll just share it openly, right? Like I remember I was playing this game. I was asking you for advice, and I was like, man, I'm doing MSNBC a lot. I'm doing CNN. This was last year. CNN a lot, and like I got babies, I got kids. I just can't keep doing this for free, right? Like how much more do you like? How much more do I do? And then I had a meeting with CNN. They were very nice, but you know, you have those meetings. It's one of those professional meetings where as soon as you enter, you're like, they're not going to hire me. But they're just being respectful and nice. Like you just know.
Oh yeah, I've had a lot of them lately.
Yeah, that's my life. That's our lives right now.
Yeah, a lot of people. Yeah, it's not abnormal. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, but so what happened was, and this is just how fate works sometimes, Christchurch happened. And because of all the work that I've done on this, I was watching this Christchurch massacre unfold. And before the evidence came, I was just waiting. But I said, I saw the patterns because I've done like 10 years worth of research on this stuff, right? I'm like, I know this guy is a white supremacist. I'm pretty sure it was like, you know, motivated by certain individuals. I can connect the dots, but I didn't want to say it until I got like some reputable news source to like, you know, drop it. And then I remember the memo came out. I read it. I'm like, boom. And so I did a 10
the manifesto.
Yeah, the manifesto, and then like, you know, New Zealand, some paper in New Zealand came out with some details. I'm like, boom, got it. And so I did a 10 tweet thread late at night without any hashtags, just like connecting all the dots, the conspiracy theory, how this is all connected, how there's like a global ideology of hate, how this affects the rest of us, white supremacy, yada, yada, yada. I go to sleep. Like at 6 a.m., I get this phone call from Jim Sciutto from CNN. And he's like, bro, like, come on my TV. And I'm like, come on my show. I'm like, how the hell you get my number? But sure. And then I find out that Twitter thread went viral. And then Sciutto tells me that apparently Zucker at CNN told everyone in their morning calls to follow this guy Wajahat Ali. And then Sciutto said, man, you made me look good because I told my boss I already got that guy on the morning show. And for the next 3 days, I literally like do nonstop press, CNN, MSNBC, CNN, MSNBC. And then on that Monday, I get the call from CNN, who just like 2 months earlier had said, oh, you know, they were very respectful, said, oh, we'll keep you in the loop. This is how the game is played. And then she was like, yo, we won't jump CNN ASAP. Like, let's do this. There you go. Who would have thought? It's weird. It makes no sense.
It makes a lot of sense, but it's sad too. It's sad that it took that horrific massacre for them to realize we need this guy. You know, you can talk about anything. And, you know, your TED Talk is about having more kids. You've written, you know, New York Times columns about midlife crisis. You can obviously talk about politics, impeachment. You're a trained lawyer, but but at the same time, I'm glad because your voice should be, you know, elevated when we live in a country and in a world where white supremacy is thriving. I mean, I was about to say on the rise, but thriving. So, yeah, whatever it takes, it's great to have your voice out there, and I'm so glad that it is. And now you're on CNN regularly. So but I really did want to ask, because of what's going on in my life and this transition, I think about you, dude, probably every day because of your daughter's diagnosis and illness. And you can tell folks exactly what's happened with her a little bit. But I use your situation to help give my situation perspective. I've got another friend who's got cancer, and it doesn't look great. And it's been a real struggle for him and his family. And yeah, I'm really in a tough spot financially, but my kids are healthy. My wife is healthy. I'm healthy. And I have a lot going for me, but it's still difficult. It's still really terrifying and challenging. And I'm very anxious to be 44 and try to rebuild my career and be in this transition. It's exciting. I'm loving it. I really am loving the work, but it's terrifying because, you know, what does my future hold? Then I think back to you and I think, how does Waj do anything? How does he do anything? What with his little girl being ill? What has helped you and your wife and your family through this time? Is it your religion? Is it what tools, what resources? Tell me about what's gone on.
Yeah. So I think, you know, if we may share with your listeners, it's an interesting position to be in because I think 6 months ago, I called a lot of my friends, right? I think this was right before, well, let me go back. I think it was 10 months ago. And this was before we found out that our daughter, Nuseba, was diagnosed with cancer. This was in April, we found out that she had stage 4 cancer, hepatoblastoma, which only affects 1% of babies. And I remember I was in your situation. This was before the CNN contract. I had 2 kids at the time. Now I have 3. Awesome. And I was like, what am I doing with my life? I'm 39 years old. You know how it is in our industry. Everyone thinks you're successful, but I remember I shared this with you. I said, like, all these projects are bubbling and nothing's sticking. And I'm trying to figure out my next move. And this was also where the CNN and MSNBC thing was going on. I'm like, man, I think they really like me. I'm trying to figure out how to get this deal. Yeah. And I remember I talked to you. I said, you've always been a good guy. I respect your career. And you gave me very good advice. I mean, you spent time and effort. You spent like an hour with me. And I remember at that time, I hope you don't mind me sharing. You're like, listen, man, like I have my dream job. It's serious. Like, this is fantastic. And like, I don't know what I'm going to do if I ever lose a job. You said that to me. And I was just like, man, I hope you keep that job forever. I'm like, I know I'm lucky. And so that's why when I heard what happened with you, I'm like, oh man.
Yeah. Worst career nightmare. Something that every day I was able to say, well, I have this great job. It's paying me really good money. I love what I'm doing. And then I would spend a certain amount of time worrying about losing it, especially as things progress. And I saw kind of the writing on the wall there. But I was able to come back to the present, say, but right now I have it. So yeah, it happened. And I don't mind you sharing it all. I think it's helpful for people to hear. I'm trying to be as transparent as I can be, because I know, as much as I feel alone sometimes, that I'm not alone. So go ahead.
No, not at all, man. And not because this was the conversation we had. And like, so you and me are kind of in the same boat, but with the CNN gig and with my daughter's recovery, like, enduring all of this. So what happened was there was this financial strain because we're parents.
What about your wife? I thought she was a physician.
So my wife is a family medicine doctor at Georgetown, but she's one of those like poor doctors. So we're still lucky. I don't want to complain at all compared to the overwhelming majority of people. And my daughter is literally alive thanks to insurance from my wife's work.
Right.
I'll just give you an example. I'm not even talking about the chemo. I'm not even talking about the checkups. Just the liver transplant, and my daughter had a successful liver transplant 2 months ago. She's doing well. This entire ordeal has lasted about 10 months. She hopefully had her last chemo. We'll find out this week. But, in March, my wife says, oh, guess what? I'm pregnant. I'm like, great. 3rd kid. April, oh, guess what? Stage 4 cancer. Your daughter might not survive April. Oh, guess what? During this time, you also need to pay the bills. Oh, guess what? No one tells you when your daughter has cancer, your entire life is disrupted. There's a new normal every day. You don't get time to work. Your wife won't work. There's no time to go and, you eat what you hunt, right? Because we're freelancers. So you have bills. You have a son who's 5 and, he has his school and his life. You have in-laws, father and father-in-law, grandparents are at a certain stage in their life where they're shattered by this news. And now you become the cancer parents and your whole life is turned upside down. So that was our last 9 months. And for perspective, to answer your question, I think it's really important, Pete, because perspective is what could keep you from literally sinking into an abyss. Because that abyss is right there, that quicksand. It's like so tempting. And all it takes is a few whispers. And there's an Arabic word called waswasa, and it means whispers, like the whispers that attack us when we're most vulnerable, like the insecurity, right? You'll never make it. You're too old. What does life have in store for you? Or you curse the heavens, figuratively. You curse God. I was a good person. I did everything right. Why me? Or you could, you become Gollum. You look at your peers. You're like, what the F? I've worked my ass off. I've done everything right. And this dumbass who's like 25, who we know is like shit for brains, is getting this, like, he got the CNN deal. And, that can bubble up. And so, and we're human. This happens. But I think for my wife and I, we were very lucky, and we're in the same kind of mental space where we never allowed ourselves to go into that quicksand. I remember I talked about this briefly on your serious shows, like, because you can easily say, I was a good dude, I was a good dad, I did everything right. Why my daughter? Why? There's no answer. Once you throw that question out to the universe, there's no answer. it's literally like cutting ourselves, and it's like drowning in quicksand. And I knew that. So that's why I cut it, and I focus on the present. And the way I got out of it, I think, is, I recommend everyone having a near-death experience before death. I've had one before. It crystallizes what's really important in life. And you realize, like, I don't know about you, but like, I think I make this assumption, knowing a little bit about your life. We've been poor before, and we've had money, and we've lost it. Life goes on. But like, if I lost my daughter, she's never coming back. You know what I'm saying? What
was your near-death experience?
7 years ago, 8 years ago, my heart rate skips to like 230, 240. I had a condition. I pass out. Usually once you pass out, it resets. It didn't reset. It was at 230 resting for like an hour.
Good God.
I had congestive heart failure, pulmonary edema. They had to cardiovert me, which is a defibrillation, like 3 times. And then at the last second, my heart rate stabilized. So I got lucky. And by the way, it's all true, man. Like when you have that near-death experience, you have your negotiation with God, you do an audit of your life, you ask for more time, then you think you just know, your body knows you're going to go. So you just know. I don't know how else to say. You have a sixth sense. And so you just say, all right, well, I had a good life, right? And then you make peace with certain things. And so my only regret at that time, I swear to God, my only regret was I didn't invest in marriage or a family. I'm going to die alone. Damn. And then right then my heart rate stabilized. I swear to God. And then a few months later, I got married, which was the best decision I made.
So that near-death experience equipped you and gave you a perspective how to deal with your daughter's diagnosis?
I think it did, in the sense, it gave me a perspective about life. Like, you lose everything. What's important? You can intellectualize this.
I'm going to go walk on some thin ice.
No, but that you're going through it, right? Like, look, in a serious way, they say like 3 of the most traumatic experiences could also be some of the best experiences for life. Near-death experience, they say, a divorce or breaking up with a relationship or losing your job. Because each one of them is a trauma. They literally like disrupt your sense of self, your sense of identity. It's like literally walking on thin ice. There's nothing but uncertainty, right?
Right.
But at the same time, people say, and you said this, you know this, but it's so hard to actually, know it as you're going through anxiety and fear. That's also exciting because it dislodges you from what could have been like a situation that might not have been the best for you.
Right.
You just got comfortable.
Right.
And so, but at the same time, it's really easy to say when you're a young kid, you and me are fathers. And so now you're hunting again, and now you're hunting and you're like, shit, man, I just lost my dream job. What the F am I going to do at the age of 44? I feel like that. That was the same thing I told you, right? I'm like, what do I do, man? I'm 39. Yeah. I remember I told you, Pete, give me an honest answer. Should I leave this? Should I go back to law? And you said, don't. You said, stick with it, which I did.
And I don't remember saying that, but I'm sure I did, but it's because I think that you're so special and unique.
No, but you said that to me. You said, yeah. I said, listen, man, you're a father. This is my situation.
Yeah.
Just give it to me straight. And then you gave me an objective, subjective perspective that I needed to hear. And my other, friends did also. And here I get to return the favor.
Yeah.
And say, and I said that to you also, man, like on Facebook, I wanted to give you some space. I'm like, just keep at it. Like you're too talented. You've built up a reputation. People know you're a good guy. You're funny. You're smart. You've got the gift of the gab. Like, don't tap out. Take 6 months, recover. You have the rest of your life. And so I get to return the favor on your podcast.
Well, you're making me emotional on my podcast, but I appreciate it. I wasn't expecting it to go this direction, but I think maybe I've been waiting for it to go this direction on the record, because I've been having all the amazing conversations and difficult conversations with very special people in my life, no one more than my wife. And it's been really helpful, but to have it here and to share this with everybody, which I will, hopefully it resonates with them. And obviously I'm interested in hearing back from people. So I want to keep that part of the conversation going with you about me and sharing that with others so that they can, kind of relate, because I think it's helpful. I think being vulnerable is important. I think being honest and transparent is important, but you also don't want to, at least on the microphone, say too much and give away too much. Not in my case, not because I'm worried about what people think of me, but only because you don't want to depress people, I guess. That's what I'm worried about. I've always been this kind of hopeful, inspiring, happy guy, and so I haven't wanted to talk about my greatest fears. My greatest fear is obviously, a health concern, what you've dealt with, but what I am dealing with, the financial insecurity, the future earning potential conversation.
But your wife is, we got very lucky that we married much wiser women than us, because based on what you said, it sounds just like my wife. Like,
what is your wife like? What has she done or been for you? How, like, when I think about your daughter's illness and I think about your wife, who I don't know, I think, well, she's a mother, and your daughter has stage 4 cancer. You're paralyzed. You can't function. There's nothing you can do.
But I married a very tough, badass wife who is spiritually and mentally, and like we've talked about this, our wives are spiritually, mentally tough people who are anchored with a positive perspective on life, and they know what's really important. And not only that, as men, I think, and we can admit this, there is the ego. There is, what will people say? What will my peers say? If I ask for help, does that hurt me, my image, my brand? We're not brands, but this is how the world talks now, right? Like, will people see me as weak? Will people see me as navel gazing? I'll be honest with you, man. Like, look, when I emerged from this, when we were emerging, and this is just recent, I'm talking about the last 2 months, when we were emerging from Nuseba's post-liver transplant, we're like, oh, it seems like she'll survive. And okay, this was October, and I'm like, and this timeline seems to have worked. I told my wife, I think it'll be like the new year, January, when we get a new normal. And it seems like that's what's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, right? And she's like, okay, well, what are we going to do? You got to go work. And I'm like, but people think I'm a baller. We've had this conversation. People think, oh, CNN, this, that. But, I don't think people realize, like, for 10 months, like, we've done nothing but this. And she says, well, you have to share that with people.
Yeah.
I'm like, if I share that with people will use that to mock me and ridicule me or see me as weak. And she goes, no, share it with people, do it in a nuanced way, which I know you can, and people will actually respect you. People will know it. You'll be vulnerable, and it'll actually help people. And, people will be like, oh, I thought Waj was so busy. He's free? Great. I'll reach out to him. And so this was so painful for me, Pete, like so painful for me. Like, it literally took me like 2 or 3 months. And my wife literally said, I rarely ask anything of you in our marriage. I've supported your career. You have to do this for yourself, but for me also.
Which was to go public about your daughter's illness, you mean?
To go public about post-illness. Like, guys, we're emerging from this horrific situation. I have not, my wife has not worked. I haven't worked, but I have a bunch of skills. I made it funny. I did like the Taken Liam Neeson thing. I have a bunch of skills that I can use, and I did a tweet. It's my pinned tweet. But the process of being vulnerable and sharing, especially as men at our age, I have found, and this is why I'm just telling you if this is helpful. And in addition to sharing the journey with a global audience about what's happening with Nuseba, so many people are invested in my daughter's success. So many people said thank you. So many people said, I had no idea that you could be a live liver donor. So many people said, I've learned so much about this journey. So many people said, your vulnerability and honesty has restored my faith in humanity. And I think this conversation, like, there's so many men and women out there like us who literally will die in shame instead of simply just asking for help. Well, and if they simply opened up, I don't think there's weakness here. Let me put it that way.
I don't think there's weakness. It's just, for me, it's what do people want to hear from Pete Dominic? What is he delivering? And it's generally been, a thoughtful conversation with other really smart people, funny, inspiring type of stuff. And it's not my current situation. And to just jump on what you just said, I was able to, for my whole career, well, certainly for the past 12 years, help other people. It gave me great reward. And, it was just out of altruism. And when, they would say, what could I ever do to help you? I'd say, well, you just pay it forward because other people did that for me. And so now that I myself need help, it's hard. It's really hard. I don't want to be a burden. I don't want to ask for help. So I was talking to Tom Shadyac, the film director and author. He had this great documentary, I Am. He had a near-death experience in his life. Funny you say that. And he gave me this great advice, Waj, where he said, you are giving people a gift when you let them help you. Remember how it made you feel to help other people? Now you're giving other people a gift when you're allowing them to help you. And I didn't think of it that way. And it was hard to kind of wrap my head around it, but that certainly does seem to be the case.
Well, because you designed the same way. Like, we can't comprehend that. We're like, no. It's our job to help people. We don't ask people for help. We're like, that's no. Like, we just suffer.
Yeah. Yes.
We'll suffer through it. We'll just grit our teeth and suffer.
I'll get through it. I'll figure it out. I'll do it. I'll network. I'll do everything it takes to succeed. But I won't ask, for certain types of help, I suppose.
Yeah, I'm the same way. And what we realize, which is a humbling realization and experience, is we're not islands, and we cannot do everything ourselves. And there are people who love us and who want to actually help us. This seems like to those who are more emotionally advanced than us, I think, listening to this is like, of course, that's how it works. But I think for people like you and me, and based on what you said, I'm very similar. I'm the same exact way. I'm like, I'll help anyone. Anyone who wants my help, no problem. But if God forbid I had cancer, I just like quietly die. And maybe I should write an essay the day before my death. Right? Like, I just be like, I don't want to burn anyone with my death. My wife says, what's wrong with you? What's wrong with you? No. And so this is, just a very humbling experience, but at the same time, with whatever time we have left, I think it also can make us just better people. And I think maybe people do pay it back, right? Like, maybe people, that's what I've seen people say, your wife is a wonderful person. Your daughter is so sweet. You've helped us. We want to help. Even people who I've shared with this on your previous show, like people who hate me, like people who hate my politics. They've literally said, I hate your politics. I hate your tweets. I hate every time I see your face on CNN. I'm still praying for your daughter.
Yeah. Yeah. That's nice. That's great.
But like, the thing is, I feel like it's you said something which stuck with me. Like you said, what people expect to hear this from Pete Dom, and this is what people want from me. And I just want to throw this out there, if I may, like a challenge or an invitation. I think you're at that stage in your life, man. You've done enough. You should be like, what do you want to do? What do you want to talk about? And I think you should go on that. You should go on that journey. I think your audience will go on that journey with you. It reminds me like of Stern in a bit. Stern, with his own insecurities and demons, like he openly admits now, he was so paralyzed with his narcissism and insecurity that he used to like not have conversations with his guests. He used to just talk over them. It had to be about him. And then once he went through that therapy, he evolved into becoming like what is now a great interviewer and conversationalist. And like, yeah, he still does the sex jokes, dick jokes I remember from the 90s. He's like a different person now, right? He's older.
Yeah.
And the audience came along with him. And even if the audience didn't come along with him, who cares? It's his show. Like, this is your show. You'll get a new audience. That's all I'm saying.
Well, I appreciate everything you said, and I know I got to let you go, but part two, like, I just want to keep talking to you off the air. I want to keep talking to you on the air, on the podcast, and I think about you all the time. I not just because I see your tweets or because I see your face on CNN. Like I said, I think about you a lot. I think you're a special person, and you've been, I don't know, somehow, maybe it's generational, maybe it's just our personalities, but I've always felt pretty connected to you, and this is not the way I thought this conversation was going. I was all prepared. I've been reading all your articles and I want to talk about all these other issues. And I guess I wasn't prepared for this, but I certainly am really happy and feel very rewarded by it. Thank you.
No, thank you, man. Thanks for reminding me. And as always, you invite me, we'll come and talk politics and do some poop jokes.
Thank you, pal. I like both things a lot, a lot.
All right, man. Thank you. Thank you. I'm looking forward to this.
I'll talk to you soon, pal. Thank you.
Take care. Bye.
Wow, he hung up. I thought we were going to talk a little bit more, but I'm gonna call him back now. Wow, that was something, huh? Well, there you go. I laid some of it out for you. If you can relate to my situation in any way, I'd love to hear from you. So tweet me at Pete Dominic, email me standupwithpete@gmail.com. Did you lose your job at some point? Were you the breadwinner and you lost your job? I've been wanting to do that episode. Have you a midlife crisis of any sort? I certainly do connect with people around my age a lot, Gen Xers. If you can relate and you want to share with me, I'd love to hear your story. So send it my way. And since I've been slowly and subtly letting the cat of my anxiety and depression out of the bag, and I think I'm just going to come out wide open and talk about it on social media and from time to time here, I want to end today's episode by sharing your answers on Twitter that you gave me to my question, which was, what is the difference about your fears and anxieties when you wake up in the middle of the night? That's when I'm least able to deal with them. New to this, give a brother a hand. Got a wide range of answers. Biff said benzos. Actually took a Xanax for the first time. It was like an old expired one that my wife had, and I liked it. I don't really want to depend on those, but let me know what you think of that. Leighton tweeted sativa indica hybrid strain of cannabis. I actually stopped smoking weed like 10 days ago, and I don't know. We'll see if I go back to it. Nick wrote, I think about what I'm grateful for. Gratitude is a powerful medicine for the soul. Armand Dad on Twitter said, Pete, first of all, remember that nothing other than your current professional situation has changed. You're still incredibly talented and have a knack for connecting with people because you care. Nothing can take that away. I know it's easier said than done. I've been there. Yeah, I appreciate that, man. That's what I'm trying to do here. That's why I'm being as transparent as I can be without sounding like a pathetic wretch and depressing you. Hopefully it's helping you. Taryn wrote, I have a mantra that usually works when I wake up ruminating. I tell myself, quote, this is not a thing you can deal with right now. And repeat it a lot and break the cycle of thoughts. It helps since I wake up worrying about things that are happening the next day. Also on Twitter, Suzanne Bond wrote, I lost my son this year, Pete. She's puts all other things in perspective. So much time wasted of anxiety. Shift your thoughts to your joy makers. Everything is really okay. And I've been going back with her privately. Tragic situation. Greg Gutfeld, my old friend Greg Gutfeld, who you probably hate, but Greg and I are friends from Fox News. He was the first person to put me on TV, on cable news. He wrote, I can't remember my anxieties in the morning, which prioritizes their importance. Joe wrote, nothing to distract you in the middle of the night so you dwell on it and your brain exaggerates. If it's a temporary stressor, maybe try some Lunesta to get you all the way through the night, but side effect is that you're groggy the next day. Medicated sleep is not good sleep. And then a very Christian person, Third Day Farm on Twitter, right? Talk with Jesus Christ your Lord. As a disabled veteran with severe PTSD, numerous suicide attempts and many bad nights until the Lord slapped me and accepted me as I am. Nights are way better now, talking with Christ. I also watch Shepherd's Chapel on DirecTV. Okay, well, I'm not sure if that's a choice, but maybe I can replace Jesus Christ with some other entity of some sort in my mind, the universe, you know? All right, well, thank you for those ideas, and those were on Twitter. Maybe you're not following me on Twitter, at Pete Dominic. At Stand Up with Pete is the show Twitter handle. But let me know how you deal with anxiety in the middle of the night, and I'd love to hear from you. Okay, that's all I've got today. I will talk to you, actually a special episode on Tuesday, long conversation I had with my big brother, and I'm really excited about that. Going to put that out on Tuesday of this week, so we'll have 4 episodes this week of Stand Up, and I'll talk to you then.